For over 300 years, one single dynasty completely dominated the Indian subcontinent. Now, these weren't just conquerors. They were artists, architects, and administrators who blended Persian, Islamic, and Indian traditions into something totally new and powerful. And, well, they left behind a legacy that's just as controversial as it is beautiful. So, how did they do it? That's the big question we're tackling today. We're going to trace the incredible story of this one family, from their beginnings as Central Asian warlords to becoming the architects of a true golden age. And, of course, we're going to have to ask what led to their dramatic and really inevitable downfall. All right, so here's our roadmap. We'll start with their explosive beginning, move into the incredible unity and art they created, then hit the tipping point, the moment things started to go wrong. After that, we'll watch the slow collapse, and finally, we'll unpack the massive legacy they left behind. Okay, let's jump right in. Every story has a beginning, and for the Mughals, that story begins with the sound of cannons and the smell of gunpowder. It all starts with this guy, Babur. Now, he claimed to be a descendant of both Genghis Khan and Tamerlane, so, no pressure. He had massive ambitions to match, and he set his sights on the legendary riches of India. It was a huge gamble, basically risking everything on one shot. And this is the moment it all pays off. At the First Battle of Panipat, Babur's army was tiny compared to the huge force of the Delhi Sultanate, but, and this is key, he had a secret weapon, gunpowder. His cannons and firearms totally shattered the enemy, won him the city of Delhi, and just like that, the Mughal Empire was born. So winning a battle is one thing, but how do you turn a conquest into a stable, long-lasting empire? Well, after a bit of a shaky start under Babur's son, the answer would come from a boy who took the throne and became the dynasty's greatest ruler, by far. This is Akbar. He became emperor when he was just 13. Now, that's usually a recipe for total disaster in history, right? But Akbar was different. He wasn't just a military genius. He was a true visionary who would shape the very soul of the Mughal Empire. And here's what made him so brilliant. He understood that you couldn't rule a place as diverse as India with just brute force. It wouldn't last. So he built his empire on some pretty radical ideas for the time. He championed religious tolerance, he got rid of a hated tax on non-Muslims, and he created this incredibly efficient, centralized government to run the whole show. At the heart of it all was this invention, the Mansabdari system. It was an absolutely genius way to organize everything. Basically, he'd give his officials land and rank, and in return, they had to keep a certain number of troops ready for him at all times. It created this web of loyalty and control that became the steel frame holding the entire empire together. Okay, so Akbar builds this strong, prosperous, and stable empire. The foundation is rock solid. So what comes next? Well, his grandson gets to take all that peace and all that money and build a legacy, not of policies, but of pure white marble. And that brings us to Shah Jahan. Look, if you've ever seen a photo of the Taj Mahal and just been floored by it, you have this man to thank. He was completely obsessed with architecture. And with the empire's coffers full, he set out to build, well, paradise on earth. And I mean, just look at what he built. The Taj Mahal, which is basically a love poem written in stone for his favorite wife. Then you have the massive red fort in Delhi, which just screams imperial power. And the spectacular Jama Masjid. This wasn't just construction, it was art. This was the absolute peak, the high watermark of Mughal culture. But here's the thing. A golden age like this, it's not free. These jaw-droppingly expensive projects, plus a few costly wars, started to seriously drain the bank. And for the first time, you could start to see these tiny little cracks forming in the foundation of the empire. So the money's getting tight, the pressure is building, and the next ruler in line is about to push the empire, its borders, and its very identity to the absolute breaking point. This is the moment where the whole story begins to turn. And this is the guy who does it. Aurangzeb, Shah Jahan's son. His time as emperor is just a massive contradiction. If you look at a map, he's the most successful Mughal of them all. He expanded the empire to its largest size ever, covering almost all of India. But, and it's a huge but, this success came with a fatal flaw. And this chart just shows you how dramatic the change was. It's like night and day. Where his great-grandfather Akbar preached tolerance and unity, Aurangzeb pushed a much stricter, more orthodox version of Islam. He undid a lot of Akbar's inclusive policies. And his nonstop wars, while they made the empire bigger on paper, just lit fires of rebellion everywhere. He was winning territory, but he was losing the loyalty of his people. So, after Aurangzeb dies, the empire that he had stretched so thin finally begins to snap. That strong central control that had been the Mughal signature for centuries, it just starts to melt away. And the collapse wasn't one big event. It was like a domino effect. First, the endless wars meant the money was gone. This made rebel groups like the Marathas and the Sikhs much stronger. Then, with the emperor looking weak, powerful nobles and governors started thinking, hey, why are we listening to him? They began carving out their own independent states. The whole unified thing just fractured into pieces. Now, even though the empire itself was gone, its influence, well, that didn't go anywhere. So why does this all matter today? Let's take a look at the incredible imprint the Mughals left behind, because it is everywhere. It's truly amazing when you stop to think about it. They were the first to bring these vast, different parts of India under a single government. They created this unique cultural fusion, a mix of Persian, Islamic, and Indian that you can still taste in the food, hear in the language, and see in the art. And of course, their buildings became the symbols of India itself. The Mughals didn't just write a chapter in India's story, they practically designed the book. And that leaves us with one last big question. The Mughals gave the world some of the most beautiful art and architecture ever created, but their empire was born from war and held together by force. It's a powerful reminder that history's greatest achievements often come with a very heavy price. It really makes you ask, what is the true cost of a beautiful legacy when it's written in both marble and blood?